welcome. This is another episode of No Spin Live, and I'm Dr. Jason Posner. I'm a plastic surgeon in Boca Raton, Florida, and we have two world-class experts with us tonight, two of my closest good friends in the plastic surgery world, Dr. Peter Fedor from Aspen, Colorado, and Los Angeles, California, and Dr. John Cook from Chicago. So before we get rolling on the scientific stuff, like I haven't skied in a while, so I'm dying to hear how the slopes are this year, Peter. I'm jealous.
Well, this year has been a very good snow year for Aspen, and not just for Aspen, many ski areas. It's one of those things that there haven't been huge dumps, but there is a 2, 3 to up to 6 inches almost every other day. Just enough to have a good base and enough powder to have fun, especially if you get out there early on what's called the first tracks.
Man, I had a patient who just came back, and she said they went out with like 22 girls for a party out there, and there's a restaurant there where they shake the champagne and spray the champagne all over you. I have not been there.
That's called Cloud 9, and it's really crazy. It's not something I do, but people dance on top of tables and girls take their clothes off, and it's all kind of stuff. From what I hear.
From what you hear. And how about John? I love John, but he's in Chicago, and I like visiting Chicago in the summer and the spring, but not the rest of the year.
Summer's the time to be here. As you can see out the window, there's not much snow on the ground. In fact, we've had a whole lot less snow than we usually do and a whole lot less cold. So it's been a nice winter for us, but you can't ski in Chicago.
Well,
not even cross country.
Both need to come and visit South Florida, where it's about 80 degrees today and beautiful.
Well, that's a good idea. We'll do that.
All right.
Sounds good.
So we have two really interesting stories today. The first one is really interesting. Real Self came up with a worth it rating. We're always used to the worth it rating on devices on Real Self, how one device compares to another device. But they actually published a worth it rating on some of the surgical procedures. And we were shocked that breast augmentation is at the top, took the number 1 and number 3 spots in worth it rating. So I'd like to hear some comments on this start with John and then Peter, because we hear a lot of negativity lately on the web all over about breast implants, yet I was surprised to see such an almost 100% worth it rating for breast implants. What's your take on this, John?
Well, that pretty much mirrors our own experience in the practice. The other thing to keep in mind with Real Self is it's a relatively short-term satisfaction measure, because obviously the people that are interacting with Real Self and giving their opinions, it's usually quite soon after the surgery. But I think the other thing that's really more important is the long-term satisfaction rating. And often we'll see, I think everybody here, you'll see patients 15, 20 years out. We've done a breast augmentation. They're coming in for some other procedure, and almost always they have still a very high degree of satisfaction with the procedure that you did many years ago. So I think the long-term satisfaction is very, very high.
Peter, what do you say?
First of all, I totally agree with what John said. But interestingly enough, on this Real Self's study and statistics, also the fact that breast implant removal rated quite highly as well. I wondered whether this would have been the case some years ago, because nowadays there is a lot of negative press around what we would call breast implant disease, which is a condition whether we really question whether it exists. Doesn't mean that we should not take patients' symptoms seriously, including anaplastic lymphoma and things of that sort. If patient has swelling in the breast, we should get the fluid, we should examine it, we should help them. But it's important for patients to know that in that particular condition hasn't been found with patients who have smooth implants. But the fact that the removal also rated highly, it shows that maybe some patients have been a little bit misled, unfortunately, by the negative press around breast implantation, the topic that you just mentioned in the introductory comments, Jason.
It's funny that most of the ones that I see that want removal are the ones who had them for a number of years, and then they went through menopause and they gained weight, and they're just too big, and they're looking just to downsize, take the implants out, do a lift, and they're not having problems. They just say, I'm looking too fat and I want to downsize a bit. I'm not seeing a lot. I've seen a few, but personally, I'm not seeing a lot of people complaining of weird fatigue and other problems with their breast implants. My experience seems to be much like you two guys, that patients are highly satisfied. They have these implants for quite some time. The newer generations are far superior to the older generation implants. I mean, all our staff has them. Seems like we do this every day. People are very happy.
It's interesting what you're saying about patients gaining weight. Yes, we see those patients a lot in my practice also. They come in and their breasts are much larger than they intended to have them initially, because now they are on menopause, they gain weight. And in many of those patients, I found that if I do a mammogram first, and if it turns out that a lot of fatty tissue in the breast, which often there is, I can just do suction on them and leave their implants alone, because amazingly, many of those patients, at least in my experience, have pretty soft breast mounts, Jason. What do you find?
Oh, that's a great, you know what, I haven't been doing that in that situation, but now I will. I mean, that sounds like a wonderful idea. John?
The only other issue, and yeah, I would agree 100% with what Peter said, in that really the ones I've seen in my practice, they're taking them out because their bodies have changed, not because they're worried about the implants. I think there's a somewhat of a regionality to this, perhaps in some states. Maybe it's social media, maybe it's other things. There get to be these groups of people and sometimes surgeons interacting with them. I personally haven't seen a whole lot of it in the Chicago area. The one thing about, if a patient's a little bit older, taking the implant out, the one advantage is then they don't have to worry about any of the long-term issues with implants, not medical issues, but just, the development of a capsular contracture, or maybe, say the implant breaks. Well, if you're up in age, that could be more of an issue. So, but Peter has a very interesting approach there.
If you have more information, go to theplasticsurgerychannel.com and watch our wonderful videos that Peter so eloquently spoke about.